Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Rising. Saagar, what are we up to today?
We have an amazing show for everybody today. We have Congressman Fred Keller, a Republican. He stormed that skiff yesterday. We're going to hear a little bit more about that. We got Jonathan Larson from TYT Investigates, some new breaking reporting on Mayor Pete, and Liz Harrington from over at the RNC. She's going to talk to us about those fundraising numbers that I dug into a little bit earlier this week and what that means for the working class and who they're donating to. All that coming up today on Rising.
All right, Saagar, what are you looking at?
Well, Pete Buttigieg is reinventing himself yet again. The New York Times has an amazing story filled with gory details of the effort, which I must highlight for you all. The headline reads, "As a centrist path opens, Pete Buttigieg moved towards it." A close reading, however, shows that the South Bend mayor really is a neoliberal shapeshifter who bows wherever the wind blows for political expediency, and much like his rival Elizabeth Warren, avoids specifics on anything controversial to allow himself exactly the type of pivot that he's now exhibiting. The Times shows that in June, the mayor was calling for decriminalized border crossings and dismissed criticism for raising taxes on the middle class to pay for health care. By October, they say that his pivot to the center entails a climate-focused TV ad which says, quote, "I believe we need to have a plan that works for us all." He later equivocated in a CNN interview about whether he would actually commit to his border promise. And of course, he's been attacking Elizabeth Warren for not having a plan to pay for her health care plan during the debate. The Times may see a remarkable pivot. What I see, what most of you see, is exactly the same person. I mean, saying you need a climate plan that works for us all is a definition of meaningless. Paying lip service to the immigration issue in the summer when tensions are high and then not clarifying where you stand in the fall are exactly the same position of opportunism and emptiness. It reminds me of a great moment on the show when we all had a very great laugh at his first campaign ad. Let's take a listen.
I'm Pete Buttigieg, and I approve this message because acting together to conquer these challenges is the only way forward.
Wow, you know, I'd never thought that we needed real solutions, Rachel. I just such a profound and dreamy man. I was just seduced by his dreamy white shirt and lack of jacket, and I just thought,
can you imagine a more anodyne message, honestly?
Well, I think that's Pete Buttigieg.
As for Medicare for All, who want it, well, I refuse to believe that that name is not the product of extensive poll testing to gaslight those who want universal health care and placate the skeptics. On that, I appear to be right. The Times tells us in their story that the mayor's campaign spent 3 times every other rival campaign on polling, save for billionaire Tom Steyer. Van Jones dubbed Buttigieg Pistol Pete after the last debate. It's looking a lot more like poll-tested Pete to me. Let's see if we can all get that one trending. Further within the story is more evidence of Buttigieg's shape-shifting. The South Bend mayor grabbed a lot of headlines in the summer when he was discussing packing the Supreme Court and abolishing the Electoral College. So much noise, in fact, I even featured a guest on this show who celebrated his plan. The Times says, however, that Pete's big-dollar donors and his financial bundlers told him to stop saying that because it was too radical, and lo and behold, it's missing now from his stump speech. That's all it takes to get Pete Buttigieg to change his mind. Polls and a few calls from his Silicon Valley and Wall Street donors. The funny thing is, however, that Buttigieg's entire gamble is based on ideology and not how voters actually operate. The latest Morning Consult second choice data tells us that the second choice for Biden voters is Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders. The second choice for Bernie voters is Elizabeth Warren and Joe Biden. And the second choice for Warren voters is, you guessed it, Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden. Buttigieg may be doing well in Iowa, but it's a long race to that convention. The truth is the national Democratic primary process really doesn't have very much room for him. That's because that second choice data tells us what the truth behind voters actually want. Someone they can trust. With Biden, you trust you'll get more of the same you had under Obama. With Bernie, you've been saying basically the same thing for the last 40 years. And with Elizabeth Warren, you can be reasonably certain you're going to get some pretty transformative executive changes. With Pete Buttigieg, you don't know what the hell you're going to get, except platitudes. And I thought it was amazing, Crystal, that polling data point in particular, 3 times what every single other candidate in the race has spent on polling. He is the poll-tested candidate, right? Like, I love these little tidbits because they line up with the broader truth and narrative that it tells us about this candidate. He is poll-testing every single thing that comes out of his mouth. Medicare for all who want it. like on the border issue. It was actually a great find by the New York Times. All of these little things, which were really like shibboleths to the progressive left, they're all gone from his stump speech now.
Well, and the problem is when you have basically no record, as he does, that allows him to just be like, oh, maybe this is the lane. Oh, maybe that's the lane. And by the way, we're going to have some reporting on his time as mayor in South Bend later in the show that you should check out. Most of the media is not really covering it all, but we're going to pay attention to what he did there because it's the only thing we have to go on here. And the problem is for him that voters can tell when you are trying to get the right answer that people want to hear rather than what you actually believe. I mean, an environmental plan that works for us all. Like, people, that means nothing. And it's exactly why people hate politicians. They're like, that's BS. You're just trying to pander to me. So, look, he's clearly found a lane with the donors and the media. Has he found a lane with the voters? I don't think so.
It's all about authenticity. It's all about trust that you will actually fight for the things that you will fight whenever the time comes, when the pressure comes, and every lobbyist in town is beating down your door. And poll tested Pete, I don't think he's going to do that.
Pistol Pete. It's hilarious. Coming up on Rising. House Republicans stormed the barricades yesterday in a dramatic showdown to protest private impeachment inquiry testimony.
One of the Republicans who participated, Congressman Fred Keller, tells us what brought him to this point when Rising continues.